It's important to regularly evaluate how things are going. If you have a team in your ministry, to sit down, like some people beat this to death with like 3 hour long meetings, and I'm not an advocate of that. Okay, but it is important to sit down with people and say, okay, this worked really well. This seems to be what interested in. This seems to be what they need. We're failing it this way. The kids are coming and going, and they're not mingling with each other. Um, it's important to evaluate. Okay, I'm an advocate of planning, but all plans have to be just tossed if there's something else happening. Anybody who's done ministry for a while, you know that your greatest moments happen when you didn't even plan on it. You always have a plan. Have 2 or 3 plans, okay? But then be willing to toss it all for how the Spirit is moving in that moment, that gathering, that night or day, okay? So evaluating is important. Build it into your process, but don't beat it to death with long, forever long meetings, and causing you to just be locked into something without flexibility. Okay. As a minister, ask yourself what your gift is. There are some people who are managers, people who just kind of make things happen. Okay, they keep track of things, they get the supplies, they maybe even carry out a session. A catechetical leader is somebody who has a vision beyond the immediate management. And I'm not saying this is a superior position, but it is different. And not everybody is a leader. A leader is not just an administrator, a manager, a supervisor. Those are valid and important roles, but what a leader is somebody who holds the vision for where the group should be going. That's true in not just ministry, that's true in anything. Okay? Yeah. So definitely if you are a leader, you're the youth minister, okay? You're never alone, you're supposed to have a team with you, okay? But if you're the one that's in charge, you're the director of faith formation, you're the director of the bereavement ministry, whatever you are, okay, do you have a vision of what should be happening, of what God wants to do in that community with those people through that ministry? And this way, you're checking to make sure that people are, and all that you're doing together is reaching that, okay? And that's what the leader does, including, notice how the sun is like getting annoying on me in these videos, and I might have to delay this. Okay. Oh man, no one wants to hear about Jesus anymore from somebody who has no joy in them. Period. Period. If people do not smile when they participate in your ministry with you, you're doing something wrong. Or you should be in another ministry. But people need to be free, to flow, to laugh. Life is filled with funny moments. There's no way around it. If it's real life, there's always something that is humorous. And if you'd be willing as the minister, to make yourself the brunt of a joke. If I make a ridiculously stupid mistake, I'll be upfront about it, and I'll laugh at myself, and that means it's okay for them. They don't have to be perfect either. Can't say enough about it. Your job is to share good news, to live good news, and if you ain't got a smile on your face and joy is not within your soul, people getting that. Okay, I think as I've said before, the days where a person could be someone of sharing faith and running a faith formation program or a youth ministry or anything and just be somber and serious about it is over. That's it. It's done. No one wants to hear from you. So the thing is that a sense of humor is crucial. Appreciating others, cultivating other sense of humors if you don't have one yourself, Although if you can't have one yourself, I don't know if you should be in ministry. I really don't know. But I would say that it makes me effective as a youth minister way beyond into years that I should still be effective at my age. And because everybody loves to laugh, everybody loves to feel good, everybody enjoys finding the humorous side of something. And it's a gift that I inherited and I cultivate and develop, and it makes me an effective minister. So I owe that you to share that to you. People are reading you. They read your vibe. They pick up. This is a faith that is caught more than taught. You've heard that, maybe, maybe not, but I didn't invent that. Someone else said that, and I have no idea who. I like to use the imagery of the tuning forks about how this all works. Okay, you get one tuning fork vibrating. I'll smack it, put this one in contact with it. This one picks up the vibration. Okay, a person vibrating with the love, the joy, the peace of Christ, we catch that, and it stimulates something in us, and we begin to vibrate the same way. So always keep that in mind in all that you do. We have ultimate good news. We have the good news that we are saved, that we are loved, that there is mercy, and there is infinite joy in this life and the next that we were made for, that God is doing something amazing and we get to be part of it. Man, if, I don't know how it is that people struggle getting people to join our, our family or buy into this. Maybe we're not clear about the amount of good news that we have. I don't know. But joy is crucial. Amen. Communication is crucial in any relationship and definitely in ministry. Now, when I say communication, I'm talking about all kinds of levels. First of all, among the people you're ministering to, classic case of failure on my part. I remember in my first big youth ministry in Queens, there was a kid that I got to know from my neighborhood, was in the school, the Catholic school. And he was a great kid, great personality. We hit it off really good. There was a good chemistry. And he was just a great kid. And kid never came to youth ministry over 4 years. And then I ran into him in his college, young adult years. I said, you know, you were a cool kid. And I wanted so badly for you to be part of youth ministry. There's so much you would have gotten from it and given to it. What happened? He says, you want to know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. All the mailings you sent to me had my last name on, but more importantly, my name is Mario. They were all addressed to Maria. Now, man, I learned. First of all, I wasn't the person sending the mailings out. My secretary, that was the only time in my ministry I think I had a secretary. But anyway, she was sending them out, and she made the mistake and just carried it out for 4 years. And it struck me, what a horrible thing that was. What a big mistake that was. What a waste. And I've tried to be more meticulous about in communicating to get details right. Okay, but communication is important among the people you minister with, your team. Communication is important with the group you're ministering to, and also to the parish at large. It is really important to have people know what you're doing. Putting it in parish bulletins, speaking at masses, giving presentations when you can. The more people know about what's going on, the better it is for you. Ministry is very precarious, and the more goodwill you create by letting people know what is going on can help on that level. Okay? Mother Teresa always says that it's so much more important to be faithful than successful. That's what God calls us for, to be faithful more than successful. If you are sincere about being a follower and a minister of God and serving Him, He will test you. Count on it. You will be challenged and tested to see if it's really about you and your ego, or are you really about Him. Okay, just letting you know. I don't know what form it'll take for you, but it's always the case. Just when you think you got it, you've done enough legwork, you've done enough hard work and foundation, and you should be ready to start really coasting, building, and you're just like stumped and like, where is everybody? Why aren't they coming? Why isn't this working the way it's supposed to? It's all the test to see whether you're going to be faithful or not. From my very first big youth ministry in Queens, I had given up teaching 8th grade, and I moved into the community and was starting this youth ministry. And I really was thinking that summer that I would be making all kinds of connections with these kids who had been my 8th grade students for several years. And, I didn't see nobody. You know who I did see? One kid. One kid was going through a mental challenge that summer and had nobody to hang out with, and the meds he was on made him want to eat, and he would show up at my door wanting to go grab food all summer. And I knew that that was God testing me, because if I would have rejected him, I would have said, like, you're not the kind of kid I really want in this youth group right now. You've got too many issues. I can't focus on you. If I would have done any of that, then I never would have got in motion to create maybe one of the largest youth ministries ever in America that built up at its high point to 450 kids. So God tested me early. And no matter what you're going to do, there's going to be somebody who is going to be a test for you. There's going to be things happen that are a test for you. Okay? And you just pray that you be faithful in those, because God can't bless you with the big stuff unless you're faithful in the small stuff. Okay? So have that in your heart, and hang in there no matter how many setbacks you might have. It never flows in exactly the way you want. Actually, sometimes it does, but then it takes a whole bunch of turns before it does get to that point. It's a journey. Enjoy the ride. Don't judge yourself ever by your ability to be successful. It's hard because there are some ministries where they will toss you like that if you're not successful right away. But if you have a pastor that knows ministry, especially youth ministry, they know that it can take sometimes years before you get to that point to create a culture within a faith community where that kind of thing grows. Okay, that's important, just to be faithful, not successful, or faithful ahead of success. Hopefully you have both. Service. All ministry has to include action, not just talking. Okay, whether it's youth, I believe adults, parishes, men's groups, whatever you got to do, you got to be doing stuff. You can't be sitting around praying and talking all the time. Okay, that's important. It's part of it, but there's got to be service. Now, what form that takes depends on where you're planted. One of the things that's been a great dilemma for me and a real struggle is that I want teens integrated into the life of their faith community, their parish. And so many times there's either no interest in it or it's monkey work. Meaning we need the kids to put out some tables for a dance, or we need kids to put stuff away for a party, or we need them to, I don't know, just usually it's involving tables and chairs. Slave labor. Things, hey, it's what you do it, okay? But there's not usually something more creative. Anytime I latch on to a poor parish that needs Christmas presents, I'm like, boom, thank God. Or a parish outreach that needs, kids to bring a can of soup, or real hands-on service. I like to do the midnight runs. This video is being made in the year 2020 in which we can't do midnight runs. And the kids are devastated by it because the chance to actually not just bring food and clothing to homeless people, but to interact with them. Some kids are better at that than others, but you offer that opportunity. Community involvement, participating in community cleanups, anything that's needed. Always have your eyes and ears open for when service can be done. Young people in particular have a heart for service. As long as you channel that the right way. Because sometimes their schools make them do service hours and community service, and that becomes the motivation they're doing it. and that's never any good. I have a foundation called Hope for the Children. I spend the summer visiting places, the Navajo Nation, Peru, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Africa on occasion. And I've used those opportunities for me to go and see how these projects are going to bring American kids with me and to help out. And, well, it's a great opportunity. It broadens their world. It's so good if you can possibly offer kids a way to do service that gets them out of their environment and they get to see the larger picture of humanity. They don't know. They don't know. I mean, a lot of times they'll tell you after you expose them to Nicaragua or some other place, they'll be like, I'm not taking anything for granted anymore. I'm not throwing away any food off my plate anymore. There's all kinds of ways in which it changes them. And if you do have a mission trip, there are organizations that can put a trip together and you plug into it. I'm able to do my own. But I find the kids challenging. It can be a battle. Some kids, I won't let them do it for community service for their school. I had a couple of bad experiences with that. I'll tell you that you have to reiterate with them. You have to reiterate, this is not a vacation. You're here to be a missionary. You're here to volunteer. You're here to work. And you have to say that numerous times, and you have to enforce that. And you have to remind them. You might have to help point out to them where the service is needed. They may honestly not, they're there to help. They've given up 10 days of their life to go and help people, and you might have to be the one that points out where all the help is needed. It can be very annoying, very frustrating, but all of the attempts to give service are really worth it, okay, because of the way things become alive. Helping people is what Jesus likes to do. So if you join together with him and you do those service projects, it'll change something for them. It'll bond him with the Lord. In ministry, your focus is, there's a saying out there, disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. I like that. Because in ministry, those are the two things you do. And some of the people come into your ministry, if you're a healthy ministry, they're doing okay. They've got God on their side. They're making good choices. They're living their lives right. They're looking to grow and get deeper into their faith. And they're there to give. And so you want to give them a chance to serve, okay? And also challenge them, okay? That's called disturbing the comfortable, all right? And then you want to give comfort to the disturbed. Those who may be attracted to your ministry because they're hurting, because they don't know God, they don't have love, they just need a place to belong, they need, just guidance to make better decisions. And so you want to do both. If you only accelerate on one, kids who got pretty stable home lives, go to church, everything's going nicely. I've got thrown out of a church or two where the pastor wanted that kind of youth group. I want the church kids in there. And stick their head in and find some kid talking about cutting themselves. I was out. Okay? Didn't want to see it. Didn't believe it belonged there. Okay? And then at the same time, when you become like this place that's just for the wounded, then the healthier kids feel like, well, my life is going good. I can't relate to this. That's why when you talk about the things that bring you to God, there's a variety of things that open up that door. If you just emphasize the pain, then those people are going to feel like, I guess I don't need God or I don't need this. Okay? So it's a balance of the two. Any group you're ministering with, praying with people, crucial. Forms of prayer, the Eucharist. I've actually never been a youth minister in a place where we did a youth mass right. Most places never did it at all. And then recently a place where the opportunity was there once a month, but there was nothing in place. The preaching wasn't there, the music wasn't there, kids were invited to take up the collection, yes. They could read the readings, yes. But it really wasn't a fully it was a time when my kids mostly couldn't make it. But anyway, Eucharist is key. And also, I don't think you start there though. We're so far away, especially now with the pandemic and people just not being in church at all. You can't just shove that down people's throats. You got to build into that, build up to that. Another thing that's so beautiful and powerful is adoration. But you got to build into it. You got to build up to it. Okay? You can't just have a holy hour and expect kids to sit there. And you can't have a holy hour. You can't have adoration and not explain what you're doing. Build in 15 minutes to a half an hour. Get them in the mode. Explain that this is Jesus. I had a priest recently do that. So very cool. Because our cheer in our ministry is God is good all the time. And he took it and said, yeah, you guys always say this, but you know what also is true? God is here all the time. And that was a great way of explaining how Christ is present in the Blessed Sacrament in our church, and he's present on the altar as we were adoring him and praying to him. So adoration, again, it's one thing in the mix. The rosary. Personally, I pray the rosary every day. Personally, I give a kid a rosary on every retreat that I do. I do everything I can to promote it. As far as sitting there praying a rosary with kids who only have an hour at youth group, taking 15 minutes to do that, I almost never do that. Maybe in the month of the rosary, October we'll do it. So it's balancing it. It's like kids have such a short attention span. One of the things that I'm really happy of thinking about was the idea of what we call B&B. All my youth ministries, we have B&B, burdens and blessings. Now, why did I institute that? Because when you do intercessory prayer, left to their own devices, people, and especially young people, will turn it into a shopping list of things they want and need God to do. Okay? Which is good that people feel they can bring their burdens, their needs to God. But also you want to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. And so you include the blessings. What are you happy for? What's a good thing going on in your life? What do you want to give thanks to God for? Okay, so I find that B&B, burdens and blessings, we keep the focus on, okay, praising God, letting him know what we feel bad for, and giving thanks for our blessings, and bringing our needs to him. It's more well-rounded. Okay, I also find that young people respond really good to meditation experiences. Okay, I've got a couple of guided meditations up on my YouTube channel, God Shots. Hopefully you can enjoy those, share them, use them. Okay, if you need a digital, you get on my website, but they really respond well to guided meditations. Make up your own. And the other thing is quiet. Kids need some quiet, not tons of it, but enough for them to be able to just know that when they're quiet and they turn off everything, that something between God and them can happen. Taking care of yourself as a minister. You got to be good to yourself. You can't burn out. You're of no use to anybody. The more that you have that edge to yourself in your life, that way you're growing yourself, it's gonna impact everything for the better. How do you feed yourself? How does yourself? I watch a lot of movies. Okay, I pray the rosary every day. I get inspired by listening to instrumental music or music with lyrics. I've learned how to nurture myself by taking very short vacations of an hour. Okay, just sitting in my backyard. Just making that time to let everything else just go away and let God talk to me and nurture me and strengthen me. And I find that my relationship with him is, every time I do that, he gives me something to do. Okay? I have a little sticker on my computer. It says, slave to God's to-do list and loving it. Okay, but you would be very mistaken to think that I don't make time to pray, that I have to keep busy. I don't have any compulsion to fill up every spare second of my life, okay, with something to do. do pretty much live that way, but it's not driven. It flows out of whatever prayer and sustenance that God gives me. Do spiritual reading. You gotta, you should be reading a couple of spiritual books a year. You should be reading the Bible. Keep a copy of the Bible in the bathroom. It's you're gonna be there every day. Might as well read something inspiring. I prepare the gospel readings for one of my youth groups every week. Okay, it causes me to have to reflect upon the gospel for that week in a more intense way than if I was just going to church and hearing it only there. All different ways to feed your soul. Do what works for you. You might be listening to my list of what I do and say, yeah, that makes sense, but that's a little weird or whatever. It's about taking care of your soul so that you could feed the souls of others. Okay, and the more things you experience, go out there and live. Go out there and live as much as possible, because that will give you a broader perspective of how to be there for all the different things you'll run into in your ministry. Whether it's teaching, okay, or, helping people going through a particular challenge or a particular age group, whatever it is, you got to take care of nurturing your own soul. Okay? And have fun with that. Enjoy that journey. I can't say enough about retreat ministry. I'm only talking to you, and I think I've said this already, because of a retreat weekend experience. And these days, retreat weekends are very rare. Retreat houses have closed up, dried up, gone away, been sold off. It's very sad, but I know that more spiritual growth can take place on a retreat weekend than a million weekly meetings. Fight for them, plan them well. Be open to the moments of the Holy Spirit within the retreat, but you gotta have fun. You gotta be good food. You gotta have small group dynamics. You gotta do skits. You have to have a talent show. You don't have to, but a talent show is really fun. But you gotta have meat. You have to have substance. The talks have to have something to say that relate to the young people, that relate to the adults, whoever's there. There has to be something there in substance. You have to give people prayer time, variety of prayer times. Something meditational, something in adoration, Holy Mass, a chance to confess. The sacraments should be part of a retreat weekend, yes. And so should time to just go out in the woods and just be outdoors and go on the swings, play basketball, shoot some hoops, play some soccer. All those things go into chances for the retreatants to help each other, to give feedback to each other, to be able to give gifts. Everybody should go home from the retreat with a gift or two, something from the leaders, something from a fellow retreatant, gifts that are a surprise, letters from parents, letters from people back in the parish supporting them. Every retreat should have those kinds of things, some kind of unique combination of them that it just makes it a special experience. Just getting people out of their normal environment and being with people and interacting with people and guided by people who know what they're doing. When you hear people describe why they love their retreat so much, they use the infamous "it," like they got it or it was there. And if you ask, especially young people, like, what was the it? They almost can't define it. But the people running the retreat better know what the it is. The it is the Holy Spirit. The it is the experience of God's people coming together, animated by the Spirit. It is a place where the group gathered have said to Jesus, be here, live here, love us, strengthen us, challenge us. And that it is that. So you can't have a team putting a retreat on and they're just not aware of what the it is that they're anchoring in. The prayer of the team, the communication of the team within the retreat is very crucial. Okay, but those components that I mentioned, I think that's a pretty solid summary of everything a good retreat consists of. A lot of laughter, a lot of tears, a lot of healing, a lot of the blessings of Christ in so many different ways to come into a person's life so that when they leave, they also should have a clear understanding that this was not about a memory. This was about a change in their life, and that the best part of the retreat is when they go home and they can put that into action and they can spread it to others. They can build on it for themselves, and they can, spread it to other people. All right, so that's the approach with which to handle a retreat weekend. Now, these days, because parents are reluctant maybe to send kids on retreat weekend, they could be very costly. There might be very few opportunities or places to go. For whatever reason, you also have to offer other types of retreat experiences. Okay, I conduct a good number of them, a couple hours long. I mentioned before in another one of these segments about a youth rally, which is all those components in a shortened period of time. Okay, one night, a long night, 6 to 10. Okay, on a Friday or Saturday night. But there's the short experiences, the little community building. Where I was a confirmation coordinator up until a few years ago, I used to have their individual confirmation classes would make 2 retreats together, besides the weekend. They would have 2 nights where it was just their class, okay, which we really call your confirmation family, okay, 3 hours, a couple of games, pizza, inspirational talk, movie, little discussion, prayer experience, boom. And they would always say that those nights with their class in their special youth ministry center, just them, it really bonded them. And it was one of their favorite parts of the whole getting ready for confirmation. They liked the weekend and they liked the confirmation retreat all day long, but that little night with a smaller grouping and the whole house was for themselves, it made a big impact. So schedule these kinds of events, which can be intensified God encounters, spending a little bit more time than your average weekly meeting, okay? They can do a lot of good too. And use your imagination. When kids stopped coming on retreats as often as I wanted to, there was a book out there is still a book out there called The Shack. I created a shack. I turned the attic of a youth ministry house into a shack where the kids would go up one at a time by themselves for about 15 minutes and make their own little experience. There was a whole bunch of prayer stations and boxes with different topics of what they might be going through, and all kinds of really cool stuff on the walls to get them to think. And it was just, that's your time with Jesus. Go up in the attic. And it was very rustic up there, like a log cabin. I don't know if you'll ever be able to do that. I haven't been able to do it since, but use your imagination to create retreat moments, escapes from the things that normally occupy your time. You have to get away from the things you normally do in the place you normally do it, and so that you can recover some other part of yourself, and most importantly, you can hear God talking. Okay? Whatever you can do to create those kinds of moments. I once knew of a church in Maine. I was doing retreats up there around Christmas season one year, and they had a barn. Somebody in the parish had a barn and invited them to come up, and they had their little Advent Christmas retreat in the setting that the first Christmas took place in. Okay? They had that opportunity. Living in Queens in New York City, I don't think that's going to happen. But they took advantage of what they had to create a whole different, little bit of jolting people from what they're comfortable with to something else that could really, stay with them. That's what we remember. Those kinds of moments. And even within retreats, we, especially young people, they always feel like, oh, I love all you guys. I feel like you're all my family, every single one of you. And if they really looked at the retreat, there's a couple of people they bonded with really well, to the point where it feels like it's everybody, but it really, in reality, was a couple of people. Those kind of things can be like little retreat moments, little bonding moments where you share a laugh, you share an insight, you discover you're not different. You really kind of have something in common. Um, these things are really powerful. A retreat is just an intensified opportunity to make a couple of those things come together. Okay, and I really believe in the value of it. People need to experience Christ. They need to learn about their religion in faith formation programs, but they also need God encounters. Okay? Never ever forget that. And put energy into creating really cool God encounters. Some people use a lot of art. Some people use a lot of music. Some people do a lot of skits. Whatever your specialty is, whatever the charism of your team and the nature of the group that you're ministering with, those shape the particulars. Okay? But those are the overall goals you have. Okay, have fun with that. Okay. I want to talk about putting a team together in a ministry and also cultivating leadership. Okay? That's big. We're living in a time right now where we need a new generation of leadership in the church. Okay? To do God's work, to make God's family come alive. And so, as a youth minister, you're always looking to the kids that have gotten it. They're on some level, not that they're parked in the church all the time, but on some level, they've gotten it. And they've been fed, they've allowed themselves to be fed, and now they're ready to be part of the feeding. Okay? They're ready to start serving. They've been served, and they're ready to start serving. And sometimes that happens in different ways at different levels. Finding is the maturity level of people, of young people, continues to drop because of the addiction to devices and other factors in society. This is being made in the year 2020. The 6 months of quarantine, out of school, and isolated has caused everyone to be about 6 months less mature, at least, because of all the encounters and all the experiences that they missed. So, sometimes people aren't ready to serve until their college years, or even later, okay? And then some could be a sophomore in high school and like, I got it. Yeah, I'm ready to step up and lead, okay? Look for people that you get that inkling. You pray about them. Pray about it and invite. And then equip them. I have come to simplify a lot of the training that I do. I want people to have communication skills, group facilitation skills, crisis intervention skills, spiritual growth. Okay, I try not to clutter it up too much, and I really try to keep it streamlined, to be honest with you. Okay, but it has to be ongoing as well. A way to feed your ministers. Assemble a team. Know what your own limitations are. My limitation is I'm not a kid anymore. So if I'm going to stay close to what's really going on with the kids, then I got to have a leadership team of young adults. 18, 19, 20. I have to have an advisory of some younger kids that are still in high school. They got to advise me. Okay, Tony, this is what we're going through. This is what just happened at the high school. This is what this group we never talk about here, but we think we should. So know your own limitations, and then assemble a team that can compensate for them. In one of my ministries right now, for the first time in almost half a century of doing ministry with youth, I am working with a mother. Okay, her son was in the ministry. He's now off to college, but she stayed with him. And I've never done that before. Usually, you always have the mindset of like, no, you don't want the parents around. Let the kids feel like it's a bunch of young people and one old guy. Okay? But she came with the ministry, and you know what, boy, we are some pair, because she catches things I don't. She's somebody I bounce things off of. She speaks Spanish, whereas I don't. She can minister to the parents, alleviate some of their concerns. She knows the culture. She is such a resource to me. I can't even fathom being a youth minister in that church, in that community, without her. Now, my limitations: don't know the language, because the kids all speak English, but their parents don't. So that was a limitation. So I would have been crazy to throw her out saying, I'm sorry, but I only work with young adults here. Okay? Would have been the dumbest thing I ever did. So, know what you're good at, what you're not good at. In one of my other ministries, I have a young adult, and man, is she good at details. And I consider myself fairly good at details. As I get older, though, there are definitely lapses. But I find that whenever I forget, she remembers. And she's really good at communication. The first time in that particular ministry in 20 years where I've had somebody who's a partner, somebody who, like, okay, I'm concerned about this kid. Okay, next time we get together, definitely making sure you talk to this kid. What do you think about this idea? We're meeting with our little committee. We just have a solid hour every week of going over stuff. And, who we haven't seen lately, who she's reached out to, how she's doing with social media. Man, it's the best. So, know your limitations, gather a team, empower a team, have it include those, take chances. And when you recruit, be intuitive about it. Be intuitive as far as, like, if you got a feeling about somebody. Don't be, you recruit from your parish bulletin, you recruit from people you might see at church, but you also be willing to look around and catch the person who might be the wild card. Somebody who might have a lot to offer, they just need an invitation. They may be on the fringes of things. Of course, you'll have to get a background check, and they'll have to take a certain kind of training to be able to minister. So it's not like they're completely wandering and God knows where. But definitely let the Spirit of God guide you. We really need to think broader as who is God might be calling forth in this time to just really assume leadership. Okay? All right, God bless. I got to say something about working in the church. It's not easy. It's not easy. It has been maybe the biggest struggle in my life, in my ministry, has been how to navigate the institutional church and not let it drive me away and not make me completely crazy. There is no embracing of the person who operates on the fringes, who comes in from the back door, who kind of sees things in a different way. If you meet one pastor or two pastors, a couple of people that appreciate you and what you do and set you free to just do it, you're blessed. I've had them. I have a couple of them right now, actually. And it's a blessing to work in that kind of setting where you're empowered, where a pastor will say to you, trust your gut. You got to make a decision. You make the decision on this. Okay? Man, it's nice, but it's rare. It's rare. You don't wait for the pat on the back. If you're, no matter what, whether you're a guy, male or female, there are difficulties. There's people in leadership in church who are honestly very misogynist. And if you happen to be a woman, it's going to be challenging for you. There are people in leadership in the Catholic Church that are, alpha male very conscious. They got to be the only alpha male in the tribe, okay? And if they sense a really strong male, they'll be threatened by you and you'll be gone too. The church is the place where the Holy Spirit works, but it's also human beings. And the same kinds of issues you could run into in the secular world, in business, in government, in any kind of other setting, you'll meet those kind of people in the Catholic Church as well. Or any Christian church. Hold it a minute. It ain't just Catholic. It's any church structure. You'll meet people that are truly there to serve, and a very egoless. It's all about Jesus. It's all about let's join together. And then you have people for whom it's their turf and don't intrude on their turf. You know, some people get involved in church as a safe place where they can have some power, and people will respect the uniform. And then there are people who are just godly and very saintly, and it's a blessing and honor to serve with them. There's all kinds. Don't wait for the. You have to pray about, in any situation, if you're feeling you're not being respected, what does God want? There have been situations where I was blatantly disrespected, but I felt God wanted me there to be there for those kids and those families in that place. And I endured it. Okay? And then there are times where you're just like, you know what, I'm not going to enable this kind of a sickness. And that's been very rare. More often than not, God tells me, like, suck it up and just do what you got to do. Okay? Don't expect to be paid fairly. If you ever come across a job in the Catholic Church or in any church where you make a decent salary to support a family and do a good thing, just thank God. Okay? Youth ministers in particular are the last hired and the first fired. A parish is going through financial difficulties. They got to cut back. The youth minister is always the first one to go. That's just the nature of the beast. If that's scary to you, unpleasant to you, well, make your decisions. But don't expect this to be safe or easy. Don't think because these are God's people, no one's going to hurt me. You're crazy. You get hurt as badly as any other place. And you know what? That's your time to be on the cross. That's your time to suffer the way Jesus did at the hands of religious people in his time when he lived. Okay? Maybe that's controversial. Maybe some people are wishing I didn't put this part in, but I wouldn't want somebody who's just either thinking about ministry or just getting started to go into it thinking that everybody's going to have your back and everybody's going to be out there trying to do everything they can to make it go as smoothly for you as possible. You will break your back. You will sweat, and every bit of it's beautiful and noble. And those scars, well, that's what you're going to, those are your badges of honor in heaven, I think. I once had a very profound encounter with God the Father. Okay? And I don't talk about this much, but the only time I ever felt God the Father talk to me, usually when I feel God is communicating with me, it's Jesus, the Holy Spirit, but God the Father said to me once, look, if my son's church doesn't take a serious dump on your head at least once, you probably weren't doing my work. Okay? I'll leave that with you. Because it's God's project, it's God's family, it's human beings. And sometimes the dark side plays around, because if you can mess up the church, boy, you can mess up everybody. Whatever it is that you suffer. Suck it up. Offer it up. Offer it up for the people you're ministering with. Offer it up for the souls in purgatory. Offer it up for goodness to come into the world through the hurt that you have been through, because you're being faithful. You have that. Nobody can take that from you. Even if you become rejected, embarrassed, no matter what kind of things you could go through with the hands of church people, it's all worth it if you have offered it up and you've cleaved to Christ. And it's going to strengthen your bond with him and to give you some great stories. Sometimes with other people in ministry, you enjoy, or it helps you to find out what they're going through as well, just as long as it doesn't turn into a gripe session. If it leads to prayer for the people that have hurt you and a fellow minister in some way, that's a good thing. But if it just is like dumping, there's no God in that either. And again, I only saying what I'm saying to you is I'm still called to work in the church. Kick in the screaming sometimes, okay? I'm being very blunt and very honest with you about the challenges you might face. And you might say, what's he talking about? My pastor supports me 1,000%. Okay, all the lay people in the parish, they just can't do enough to make my ministry happen. God bless you. Okay? But the other kind of experience can happen too. Don't get caught up in politics. Don't let others that are feuding within a particular faith community suck you into their battle. That's a good thing to avoid. And just please pray. Pray for your leaders. Pray for your pastors, your principals, your directors of faith formation. Pray for the Pope, the cardinals, the bishops. It's not easy to do their job, but no matter who's the Pope, they're Christ's representative on earth, and they deserve our loyalty and our prayers. So I hope that you will have a heart for the difficulty it takes to be a leader in the church, to be a minister in the church, and not become bitter. Okay? Just trying to be honest with you. God bless. I'd like to close this master class with a couple of resources for you that I've been putting together. Again, I'm not so great. I'm just somebody that's been doing this a while, learned a few things, and created a few things. And one of the things I created that I want you to definitely make use of is my website called YM Library, Youth Ministry Library.com. And it's a collection of all the activities that can be done with youth that I've collected over the years. Resources, all kinds of stuff. Icebreaker games, community building games, questions, millions of questions on every possible topic for you to put together your own stuff, okay? So feel free to take advantage of that, ymlibrary.com. And also I want to invite you to use my God Shots on YouTube. I have my guided meditations. I have some special presentations that you might want to share with your parish, your youth, whoever. And also got these mini retreats that you could, utilize, and maybe they'll inspire you to make your own. Okay? But those are resources that are out there. Everything has my contact information on it. If you would like to talk more about something I brought up and go more in depth with you about it, I'll be glad to do that. I'm available for all kinds of youth ministry trainings. Whatever you need me for. We'll pray for each other. We'll pray for those we minister with. And if I don't see you again in this life, we'll party in the next. Okay, I hope this was helpful to you in some kind of possible way. God bless you for wanting to learn more about ministry and to throw yourself into it more fully. I hope I help you do that. God bless.